It is better to be hurt by the truth than to be comforted with a lie. Hello, business owners. How are you doing, my fellow citizens? This is Daryl Guberman. I'm the CEO of Guberman PMC LLC, a quality consulting firm here in Connecticut. I have assisted companies in manufacturing quality and special processes, and also ISO certifications in all derivatives. My background is in aerospace, medical implants, medical materials, printing and plastic distribution, where we dealt in all the industries possible, known to mankind, I would say. Today is a very sad day, but it's a very enlightening day from one of my customers, John, who asked me about ITAR several weeks ago. And I said to him, you know, John, I'm going to do a video for you, and not just for you, for others who have asked me during my 11 years of progression here up until this point. And it's time to let the cat out of the bag. ITAR is a waste. And you're going to find out why, and I'm going to show it to you. This video may be 20 minutes. I can't help that, because this issue about quality, about ANSI's mission statement said to me by Russ Cheney, who's chairman, and he was not only chairman back in 2019 when he left me the voicemail, but he was also the chairman of the nomination committee for the board for a director at large on ANSI's board, which I applied for, a 54-page document. And the most disgusting thing is, at the end, I'm not going to go through the whole mess, but at the end of the 9 questions that I had to answer, it's what I was going to do as a participant on ANSI's board, which I think they've really lost out on. Now they have to suffer they're not suffering the slings and arrows of what I'm saying, but they are, because this is the truth. And when I expose the truth with these people, it's like going into the woods and you have a dead log and you open it up and all those insects start running. Because you know why? The purity of the light of day, makes those cockroaches run, makes those millipedes run, pill bugs run, worms go back down into the soil. And that's exactly what ANSI has metastasized to, a dead log in the woods, and all of the members underneath that. Yes. So you'll find that. Just Google, for example, Tim Cook, who's got an employee on there out of Apple. Tim Cook ANSI. Look that up, Google it, and you'll find them right at the top of the food chain on Google, or with one of our videos. Everything in it is factual. The reason why I did this is not sour grapes, business owners, because you know something? If you don't tell the truth, if you don't get things straight, remember, my business is Guberman PMC. That's my family name. Do you think I'm going to disparage that? Do you think I'm going to tell you a bullshit story? Do you think I'm going to lie like most of our politicians do? Do you think I'm going to be, well, I'm in Connecticut. Do you think I'm going to be like Rosa DeLauro, Jim Himes, Chris Murphy, and Richard Blumenthal, who said after Lockheed purchased Sikorsky aircraft in an article in the Connecticut Mirror that said, with China's okay, Lockheed Martin closes in on the purchase of Sikorsky aircraft? And you find out in 2009, Lockheed gets hacked by no other than China for F-35. You find out in 2012, a division of United Technologies at the time, Sikorsky aircraft, gets hacked by China. And then you find out in 2015, Lockheed Martin purchases Sikorsky aircraft for $9 billion, and you have those 4 individuals that are supposed to represent us, complimenting them in that article saying, Connecticut lawmakers praise Lockheed Martin for working with an international regulator, Communist China. And you elected these people here again. Shame on you. We have a word in Yiddish for those people who elected bozos like this, schmucks. So we continue on. So anyway, this video today is about the International Traffic in Arms Regulation, ITAR. It's a fraud perpetrated on industry in the United States. John, this is for you, and Gail, and Walt, and so many others. Kathy, so many others out there that have asked me during my years to come up with, what is ITAR, Daryl? It's an expense. What do we have to do? They said I can't go to use their business. I can't give materials to them like Boeing or Lockheed if I don't get ITAR. You know, business owners, my fellow citizens, I'm a proud American. You're going to see how proud I am by refusing the factor that they asked me to join either ANSI or ANAB in 2016. And I refused because I'm a proud American. Sitting on ANSI's board are many federal agencies, many corporations. and they all have gotten their data taken by China. You even have Huawei, who was the biggest perpetrator, and they sit on ANSI too. You have degradation of quality hidden behind the scheme of quality certification and voluntary consensus standards. I do this because I could run ANSI better than Joe Bathia, but Joe Bathia's got connections because he used to be part of the Underwriters Limited, Underwriters Laboratories. Right. We're going to continue on. I don't want to get off track. Let's get back to this. So what does it mean to be ITAR compliant? ITAR is meant to limit access to specific technologies and their associated data resources. ITAR compliance requires companies subject to ITAR to only share items in the United States munitions list, okay, with U.S. personnel unless otherwise authorized by the United States government. We are also going to hit upon this organization that sits on the IAF called the Southern African Development Community Accreditation Services that has several conflict mineral states on board, which is not a good thing to have. Yet, the IAF, the International Accreditation Forum, is incorporated in Delaware, USA. On the IAF has Iran and Pakistan, both known countries for actually admitting to harboring some of the terrorists of 9/11, and also Pakistan, who harbored Osama bin Laden, the mastermind of 9/11. You also have Lockheed Martin that's sitting right over by these two countries that is an associate member at between 2015 and 2021. And the reason why I give those dates is 2021 is only a year ago. It would be different if it was 2015 only. But you have 6 years of communist watchover via the IAF, and you will see that. And as an associate member, Lockheed Martin can vote on policy. So what is our number one supplier of military materials sitting on the IAF between 2015 and 2021 while China was watching over them? And China is mandated through the China National China National Intelligence Law, Article number 7, that mandates to take your data, espionage. See, with quality, what happens, business owners, my fellow citizens, I've been involved with it for 40 plus years, they have a word in quality with all these acronyms, CGMP, GMP, ANSI, GMS, all this other crap that goes on. It is considered voluntary consensus standards. It's not voluntary, it's shoved down your throat, okay? And most of the time you have to be a PhD in engineering to adapt it, understand it, and put it out to the market. So the word is obfuscation. Obfuscation is the action of making something obscure, unclear, or unintelligible. Obfuscation. Another item is impartial oversight. There is no impartial oversight. You have 7 different registrars that sit on ANSI, that sit right over by the ANAB, the American National Accrediting Board, which ANSI took over in 2018. And these registrars use ANAB's accreditation. For companies, corporations, and both federal agencies that utilize these registrars, some of them having these logos on there. Unbelievable. There is no impartial oversight. I think the registrars are BSI, DQS, Intertech, TUV SUD, TUV Rhineland. You have Intertech, and also, and actually you have NQA and NSF. There's the 7. So let me continue on, all right? In 2013, I gave a speech at the American Society for Quality. Dave Levy was there because he was sent there to basically not disparage me, but make me look bad. And he couldn't do it. He couldn't do it because we've got, at that time, we had probably had 30 plus years in quality. Actually 30 years in quality back in 2013. So I want to tell you this. I gave my speech, and this is what Dave Levy said. He said, there is no restriction on you doing business, unaccredited or accredited, and we're accredited. And as I said before, ANAB has no problem with what you're doing. In fact, we support you, sir. Well, what you have here is in 2013, you have the American Society for Quality that owned ANAB, the American National Accrediting Board, 50%. And you have ANSI, the American National Standards Institute, that owned ANAB 50% in 2013. So we got a thumbs up. That's 50%. We didn't need it. We didn't want it. On the ISO.org website, it says unaccredited or accredited. It's up to the marketplace, blah, blah, blah. They had to do that because they don't want this to be a monopoly. But what they do out in the field is a monopoly. They have 60 different registrars accredited by ANAP, okay? It's a monopoly. They want to push the small guy out, okay? When in essence, the business that has Guberman PMC is a business that's taken care of 7 days a week. I've had customers of mine who called me on Sunday, and I will answer the phone, not a secretary. And if they get to my voicemail, I get back to them. Unlike my competition, you call them 3 days later, you may get a call back. I've dealt with some of them personally when I was in the private sector. So in 2016, Randy Dory, who at one time was a vice president of ANAP, the chairman of the IF, and sat as a principal on the IF tax report 990, he said that, come on and join, Daryl. Everything is voluntary. If you want, you can join the IAF. If you want, you can join ANAP, or you can join both. In the context of this letter, he further went on to approve us, okay? He went on to say this. He went on to say, but we recognize and accept that there are conformity assessment bodies and accreditation bodies, such as your body and your accreditation body, that are not part of the IF and ILAC structure. While my colleagues and I at ANAP can attest to the confidence, the integrity, and competence of registrars accredited by IF member accreditation bodies, we cannot attest to this for your body. Well, nor would I want them to attest to it, because look at it this way. Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson all sit on ANSI, accredited by these jokers. They sit right over by the FDA, USDA, NIH, CDC. They both had issues about cutting back on quality standards and steps and procedures and standards. And Pfizer had recalls on the COVID injection, and so did Johnson & Johnson. You have Boeing that sits right on, speaking about a test to the competence of quality. You have Boeing that sits on ANSI's board, and they also sit on ANAP. They sit on both of boards of ANAP. One board of ANAP can grant, suspend, or withdraw certification. That sure as hell failed with the 737 MAX, 777, 787. In fact, again, if you want to see my video that discusses ANSI's mission statement about half a nut fuck you, do David Calhoun, ANSI, David, D-A-V-I-D, Calhoun, C-A-L-H-O-U-N, space, ANSI, A-N-S-I, and hit enter, and you'll see it. And look at it. And watch it. It's a little bit long. Yes, it is. But this stuff is unbelievable. Boeing wrote a procurement procedure in 2002, business owners, my fellow citizens, that stated that if you have an AS9100 certificate, meaning that an AS9100 is for aerospace, it's an ISO standard for aerospace certification, and you produce good quality, we don't have to come visit you anymore. It started in 2002, okay? 2002 it started. I can go up. Boeing sits so close to the FAA says, go ahead, design, build. In 2009, they seceded inspection that they were supposed to do to Boeing. And now, as you see in many news clippings, that the FAA is trying to scuttle around and try to act like scared rats on a burning ship, trying to get back into Boeing. Once they lose the essence of quality, it never comes back. You have a lot of issues, automotive too, electronics too. And these are the competencies that they talk about. They talk about so eloquently. Again, remember, obfuscation. We discovered after a long analysis that ANSI ANAP are underwriters for the IF and the International Accreditation Forum Incorporated in Delaware, and ILAC, the International Laboratory Accreditation Cooperation. The reason why we do this is because there are some people who are pissed off at China with the factor about the Wuhan lab, and we've shown in other videos concerning the Wuhan lab where you have a Pamela Sale who is the vice president of ANAP and ASCLD lab. ANAP and ANSI own ASCLD lab. ANAP also stands as a standalone that certifies laboratory along with ASCLD lab and also A2LA. Okay, and it is quite plausible after Pamela Sale deposition in Texas, where she said, well, basically from one laboratory to another, there's variances. When you have a variance in a Bio4 level 4 lab, you're going to have escape. So those people are quite plausible with the factor about COVID escaping from that lab. Secondly, is that when you have a underwriter such as ANSI, ANAB taking full responsibility for that, you will discover as I go along that they were accredited by the China National Accreditation Services, where Zhao Zhenwu, who's coming up right now, who was given the IAF chairmanship in 2015. He was and he's still the chief executive of the China National Accreditation Services, located in Beijing, China, and also certified that lab. And this is what an underwriter is. An underwriter is any party that evaluates and assumes another party for risk for fee. You have ANSI and ANAB. Actually, you have ANSI. The American National Standards Institute is a private, not-for-profit, non-governmental corporation that has federal agencies and corporations on board. We're not going to go into the whole detail about, well, we should, and then we're going to stop here and go on to the conflict mineral states to show you. Now, here we go. In 2015, Randy Doty was a vice president of ANAB, chairman of the IAF, and also the principal on the IAF tax forum. Okay, he handed over leadership to Zhao Zhenwu, a communist Chinese national who's been involved with our quality since 1994. Zhao Zhenwu is also the chief executive of the China National Accreditation Services in Beijing, China, and he is mandated by Communist China to take our data through the China National Intelligence Law, Article number 7. You also have the factor that Randy was sitting being advertised on the Department of Homeland Security, which also sits on ANSI's board. Okay, at the time, again, Randy sat there being advertised as the vice president of ANAB for, I guess, a PPS certification on the Department of Homeland Security, a private organization being advertised on a governmental agency, which is a no-no. I expose a factor, they took him off. But meanwhile, he was on there while Zhao Zhenwu, and by the way, was on the IAF as the chairman, sitting in Delaware. You have a simple fact of possible espionage there. Possible. I'm not saying probable. I'm saying possible, because the factor is that he is mandated, Zhao Zhenwu is mandated by his country of origin to take our data. Terrible thing. And Randy was sitting there. And he's known these two guys for a long time. So when you know it, birds of a feather, what do they say? Steal data together? Who knows? Anyway, also, I apologize. You have ANSI, who took over complete control over ANAB in 2018. You have both federal agencies and corporations on board. Here's a little note that Randy wrote in 2016 about the pleasure that it is with Zhao Zhenwu being involved with our quality since 1994. As I told you, you have Iran and Pakistan, as I told you in the beginning of the video, where they confessed to harboring some of the terrorists of 9/11, and Pakistan harbored Osama bin Laden, the mastermind of 9/11. They sit right over by Lockheed Martin, our number one military contractor, who's an associate member that could vote on policy. On top of that, I don't blame the people, I blame the politicians. You have ANSI and ANAB, who's sitting on, this is the way China gets the data from the State Department, from all of these organizations, because you have ANSI and ANAB sitting on the IAF between 2015 and 2021, when Zhao Zhenwu was handed over the leadership of the IAF. You also have ANAB, sitting on ANSI's board, and also ANSI sits on ANAB's board. You have 10 different registrars that can issue ANAB accredited certifications from China. You also have the factor here that, I apologize. Here's Zhao Zhenwu standing in the lab in Wuhan, China, 2017, handing over an ISO 17025 laboratory cert for its laboratory, which, as you know, it appears that it failed. And Pamela Sale, the vice president of quality for a certification for laboratory, ANAB and ASCLD lab, confessed in a courtroom deliberation under oath that from one laboratory to another, there are variances. You also have Rand Paul several months ago asking, Senator Rand Paul asking Anthony Fauci, NIH, who, listen, NIH, CDC, FDA, USDA, Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson all sit over by each other on ANSI's board. Isn't that quaint and nice? Rand Paul asked Anthony Fauci about gain of function research, and Fauci says, I don't know anything. Yet you have the second workshop in China that the United States and China were involved with in Wuhan, China, no less. And the first part of business is gain of function research. And also this was held May 17th to 19th, 2017. Now, if you want the entire booklet, we have the actual book here that has this information in it, all of it, has the picture of Zhao Zhenwu. I'll show it to you so that you know that it's factual, not a fraud. There's Zhao Zhenwu in the book. And at the very end, the last picture, the last space in this book, here it is. It's the article I just showed you. I will gladly send it to you, 203-556-1493. Or Daryl, tqrs@yahoo.com. And John, I hope this is getting to you because it's absolutely abominable. You have, there you go. You have the South African Development Community Accreditation Services, SADACUS. And they have on board the following countries that have conflict minerals, and they sit on the IF incorporated in Delaware. So any sort of minerals that some of these companies require for metals and all this stuff that may sit on ANSI or ANAB or IAF or whatever, they have an easy conduit by utilizing this organization's conflict mineral countries. You also have Russia on board. You also have Iran, as I showed you, and they're part of ITAR. Don't use them. You can't use them. You have the countries that sit on the South African Development Community Accreditation Services are Tanzania, Democratic Republic of Congo, Zambia, and Angola, all conflict mineral states. And the reason why we don't go to them is because of human rights. Yet you scratch your head and you look at China with their human rights issues. Although sometimes I think China may be more capitalistic than we are. And one of the worst things is, and this is the kicker for those people who are considering ITAR certification, and you must really look at this because you have the Department of State, which is part of the State Department, part of the DOD. The Department of Defense sits on ANSI's board. They sat there between 2015 and 2021. Well, you had Zhao Zhenwu, the communist Chinese national, who's mandated by his country of origin to take their data, by the China National Intelligence Law, Article number 7. ITAR is a fraud. ITAR is absolutely disgusting, business owners, because you have all these organizations sitting on ANSI. ANSI sat on the IF, as I showed you. By them sitting on the IF, you basically have a wind tunnel. Did you say it's a wind tunnel? You basically have a conduit for espionage because you're so close. And it's absolutely disgusting. And I will say again, if you want to do business and you require ITAR, you have to tell them, listen, when the Department of Defense gets off ANSI's board, then I can join ITAR. Some of you are going to say, Daryl, I can't. I'm going to lose business. If you don't get $1 million for joining ITAR for your investment, I wouldn't do it. If it's 10 grand, 20 grand, 30 grand, I'd rather be a proud American. Look what happened with me. I was asked in 2016 by Randy Doherty, you can join ANAB, you can join IAF, but do you think I want to join a non-American associated company? Because you can see ANSI, ANAB, they have registrars, that can certify over in China that can use their accreditation symbol. Are they proud American? Probably not. Can I guarantee it? There's no guarantee in this world, but I will say this. As Thomas Paine said, when speaking the truth, it is many times like administering medication to the dead. And you know something? If you go with ITAR, shame on you. Boeing, Lockheed, who many times push that down your throats, or their purchasing people, remember this. They've been hacked by China. Their technologies have been robbed. So when you give it to them, your technology may also get robbed. My telephone number is 203-556-1493. Or Daryl, tqrs@yahoo.com. And remember this, and remember it well. This is about the International Traffic in Arms Regulation, ITAR, a fraud perpetrated by our United States government on you, the business owner. And I make no bones about it. Please contact me. Feel free to. Take care.